So this is Substance Painter and I'm going to reset my UI. So you should get something like this. And the first thing we need to do is import both of our meshes. So we're going to start with File New and then find our low poly mesh first. And then we're going to use the metallic roughness preset just because it's so easy to use. And for document resolution, I'm going to set this to 4K, but we can export lower res textures if you want. And I'm gonna set this to OpenGL because I'm pretty sure Marmoset Toolbag, which is what I want to render with, uses OpenGL. But it's not that big of a deal because this is just for the orientation of your normal map, so you can flip that very easily. So don't worry about it. So let's just click OK, and here it is. This is our low poly. If I click this little button right here, we can see that this is our low poly wireframe. So we're good there. What we need to do now is import our high poly. And we're going to do this over here in texture settings. There is a button that says bake mesh maps. So click on that. And this little window right here, this tiny button, this is where we import our high poly. So let's go find that. And there's a few settings I want to change before we even start baking. So first, the output size. I'm going to set this to 4K. But like I said before, we can lower the resolution later, so not that big of a deal. And another setting that I want to change is ID. And you'll remember how we set different colors on our high poly, like different color materials? I don't think we actually need to do that because I think we can just tell Substance Painter to create different color IDs based on the names of the meshes. And as long as everything has different names, and we should be good. So just set this to be mesh ID. And we don't need thickness because this is going to be used for faking subsurface scattering. But we're not really going to do that. And let me just see if I missed a few more settings. Oh yeah, match. You'll remember how we made our low poly names and our high poly names match. So just make sure you click by mesh name so that Substance Painter knows that you want to match them by their names. And final setting, anti-aliasing. I would not turn this all the way up because your mesh might look a little bit too blurry, but I'm gonna set this to 4x4 because this really increases your bake times. So keep that in mind. And I only have to bake this once, so setting this at that level is not really that bad. So let's just click bake. And I'm gonna leave this in real time just so you can get an idea of how long it takes. I think that nowadays Substance Painter uses GPU baking, so it's a lot faster than it used to be. But it depends on your GPU in that case. So also, if your mesh looks a little bad when it's baking, like the seams are super obvious and whatnot, don't worry about it. Wait for the bakes to finish, and then we can take a look at what our mesh, like how everything came out. So it's almost done. Hey, we did it. So this is looking pretty good. This is our low poly, if you'll remember. So as far as I can tell, everything baked nicely. This looks really good for low poly. Not gonna lie. I mean, if you get up really close, then you can see it's low poly. But no one's gonna look at our mesh at that distance, so who's calling me? This looks really good. I like it. Everything baked nicely. By the way, you can rotate the light with shift right click. And let's take a look at some of our individual maps actually, the ones that we just baked. They're all the way down here, mesh maps. So I want to show you the ID. This is the one we just baked by mesh name, and it's going to allow us to mask different objects very, very easily. What else do we have? We also baked some ambient occlusion. This is what that looks like. And curvature. The curvature has a lot of lines, and I think that's just because my high poly mesh wasn't subdivided too high. So I think I can probably fix that by just adding one more subdivision level to my high poly, but this is just the curvature map, so we're going to use this. It's only going to be used as a mask, so it's not that big of a deal. Like I said before, no one's going to look this closely at our mesh, so I'm going to press M, see my mesh. Yeah, the most important one is like the normal map, and that one looks great. So before we even get started, there's one thing I want to do, and that's just maybe test out my mesh with one of the presets. So I'm gonna look for, actually I can't really find materials like this. Let me attach this over here, make it wider. That is a lot better. So let's look for smart materials, and let's look for paint. There was one that I really liked. Let's try this one out. Just drag and drop. And it's going to take a while to load because our document resolution is currently at 4K. But hey, take a look at that. Looks really good. Shift right click to rotate the lighting. That looks great. And if you'll notice, this little spot right here is in the exact same position on the other door latch, whatever. Anyway, our mirrored UVs seem to be working just fine. And they're not too noticeable because, as I said way before, because these two like pieces are really far apart from each other, it's not super easy to notice that they're actually textured the exact same way. Excellent. So I just wanted to test it out. That's always a good thing to do. Just find a smart material that has some good details on it and drag it and see what it looks like. But you saw that just loading this whole material was really slow. So I'm going to lower down the resolution of my textures to 2K just for now. And this is going to make working a little bit faster. So you see it looks almost the same. The change isn't that noticeable. But this is going to be a lot snappier and more responsive now. And when we export, we can just turn up the resolution again.